this morning I kind of want to, I guess, just share a little bit with you guys. Kind of more of a personal testimony. It's going to be related to really, I think, some things in Scripture that the Lord has been trying to teach me and wants me to know. But anyway, around I guess last December, last year, I was getting ready just to do it.
I can't quite hear you.
I can't hear you. Okay. It's on. Around last December, I was looking forward to going home for a Christmas break and just really trying to walk with the Lord and spend time with Him. But I was getting so caught up in just getting to go home and all the different things that He had for me that I kind of lost sight of just spending time with Him, and I started to grasp for just the things that He was going to give me. And I had been doing that the whole semester previously before, just really getting so focused on the things that God had given me in my life, my family, friends, time to just relax and enjoy, to eat good food, and even just do well at school. All these different pleasures in life that I started neglecting, just spending time with Him, and I kind of just I didn't even know it, but I kind of got just snuck off course. And I wanted to just step into that because I felt like He had put a lot of things on my heart to go and be with my family, to do things with them. And plus it was Christmas. He was giving me a joy for holidays and just being able to celebrate as the people of God. And it was just, I was excited. Everything seemed to be going good. I felt like I was in the promised land almost, and that the Lord had given me an inheritance. But if you read the Scriptures and you hear what what God commanded to the Israelites before they entered the promised land, He says, be careful when you enter this land to obey all the laws that I've given you. And don't turn away from me. Don't give way to the idols that surround you. Don't fall into their practice. So, okay, He's saying, I brought you out of Egypt. I brought you out of slavery. I brought you to the desert. I'm preparing you. I've given you my laws and my commandments. And I'm about to finally bring you into the place that you've wanted and that I've prepared for you. Now, when you go in there, don't mess it up, because if you do, all these curses will fall on you. And He takes us through that process of getting ready to enter our promised land so that when we get there, we'll be able to handle it correctly. We'll be able to shine as a people of God. And that's figurative kind of for us now. Obviously, us getting ready for heaven, but I also think in our own lives, the Lord has a time of preparation, or first deliverance and preparation, and then getting ready, and then finally entering what He has prepared for us, whether it be ministry-wise or just something, what is the purpose of our lives? And so this was just a small little season of this going on with me. I'd really gone through a lot of trial and spiritual attack that early in that year, and even just coming out of being a sinner, that's deliverance out of Egypt. And the Lord was bringing me through this time of testing and getting ready, and it's like, are you really going to love me and follow me? And I finally just started to receive blessings around summertime last year, and it was profound, and it continued on, and it was just encouraging me to keep walking with Him, keep spending time with me, remain faithful to me even when you're surrounded by all these good things. And so by the end of last year, I was ready for Christmas and so excited, and I lost sight of Him, and I started neglecting kind of some of my priorities, even I thought in my heart towards the church, even with school, and I just got so caught up, and I started grasping for it and forgot that God was there. And when I was about to go home last semester, I felt I was really worrying, really anxious, because I hadn't settled stuff with just stuff at home. Stuff at the school with my rooming situation. And I was so caught up in it, I couldn't focus on him at all, that I felt a leading just to, okay, you need to stay here. Like, you're not ready to go home. Things are about to get changed up. And I was devastated. And I got really frustrated. I got really depressed. I was like, oh, how come I'm not going to be able to go home? And actually, I did try to go home. I went home, and I went there, and I was like, the Lord was like, this is not where you need to be. Like, it wasn't even him speaking. It was just, I couldn't function. I couldn't operate. I couldn't even talk to my family. And I felt like something terrible was about to happen. And so I finally was like, Lord, well, if I'm not going to be able to enjoy anything here, then I need to go. I need to get out of here. And so I ended up driving back to Florida the next day. And it was crazy. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is probably bad stewardship, but it was the heaviest burden on my heart to come back here. And all this time I was missing days with my family. And I was like, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I just felt like I needed to get my priorities right. I needed to spend time with them. I needed to make sure I take care of what's going on with the youth here. And because I had kind of started to slip through a little bit. But I still didn't quite get it, that I just needed to love him more than anything else. And what ended up happening was really just the enemy came in and just totally stole everything from me that the Lord had prepared for me, because of me not understanding what exactly I needed to do, me getting just kind of tricked, because that's what the enemy likes to do. He likes to deceive us and trick us, and really just bring us into ruining our lives, even just with small things. It gets bigger and bigger. And so I was running around here in Florida for days, trying to figure out what to do, and all I really needed to do was just come and spend time with the Lord. And in that place, he would give me clarity to know what I needed to do. And I was so caught up with missing out that it was terrible. And I ended up going home, but I wasn't ready for it. And I was really distracted, and different things going on. I couldn't keep my eyes focused on God, and I just wasn't clear-headed. And so it was like a waste of time. It was a tragedy. And I was really upset about it. And I finally began to really just realize, okay, nothing in my life is going to work out unless I really just follow God. And I just love him more than anything else, because that's where he wants our hearts to be. And so I just started spending time with him, seeking him in the Word, and I was just experienced a lot of depression and just stuff coming against me, distractions, and wanting to go do things that I know I shouldn't needed to have been doing. And it was really tough. I spent more time reading in the Word than I ever have in my life, just day and day and day, and that's what you have to do to combat the enemy. And eventually it came to where school started again this semester, and I was like, Lord, what is going on? Like, why did I miss out everything, for this break? And I don't even feel refreshed at all. I feel drained, and it's the exact opposite of what I wanted. And school started, and that just hit me like a brick. I couldn't decide on my classes because I was so clouded, and the whole time I was just trying to read the Bible, but I'm getting distracted. There's other people and other things going on. And honestly, I felt like I was in a mess. Like, I felt like I was absolutely hopeless. I wasn't receiving any direction. I couldn't even function as a normal human being. I couldn't understand what was going on or what I needed to do. And the Lord just kept encouraging me to spend time with him, keep seeking him. Like, Lord, I've spent like 80 hours this week with you. But it's just to keep focusing on him. It doesn't matter how long it takes. And honestly, things started to get better. I started to be a little bit clearer. I started to, be able to do things, and I was free. But I just kept getting frustrated. I kept getting caught up and distracted. And what I want to talk about today is really just focusing on God and just looking at him despite everything else that's going on around you. Because that's what the enemy likes to do. He likes to creep in and just totally get us off track, even if it's things that are generally good in themselves. He likes to creep in and just get our eyes off of Jesus, and really Jesus is just right there saying, I'm still here. Things may be going down around you, but if you look at me, I'll be able to rescue you. And that's what I didn't do. During the time of Christmas break, I saw things going on wrong around me. I I didn't want to stay in the room I was in, but I didn't know what the right thing to do was. And time was passing, homework assignments were coming up, and I was freaking out because of my circumstances. And because of that, and because I totally turned my eyes off of the Lord, things went downhill. And as he brought me back and continued to teach me to focus on him and look at him this semester, from that place, everything else started falling back into place. Even just little things like, okay, you know, I've spent time in the Word, now I can go eat breakfast. Just even easy. I've heard some. There's a guy who I've heard a good thing. He says no Bible, no breakfast. So every morning he gets up, if he doesn't read the Bible, he doesn't eat breakfast. And just even be able to spend time with friends and experience real fellowship with them, those things started coming, and the Lord started giving me just almost like birthday presents here and there, in spite of all the chaos that was going on in my mind, to say, okay, Andrew, I'm still here. I'm going to reward you for just fighting and holding on for me. And so I continued, and from that place, I can honestly say, I literally thought that was the worst thing that could ever happen to me in my life, is what happened at Christmas time. Not as in the worst thing that could ever happen to me, but as in what my greatest fear was. It was not being able to go home for Christmas. And and that ended up happening, and I literally thought, okay, this may not seem big from the outside, but honestly, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me in my heart. And I can honestly say it was. I've experienced a lot of pain from that, and the Lord really helped shape me through that, even though it was not good at all. But as I kept worshiping and spending time and walking with Him, I started to understand, I started to focus on Him. Well, okay, these are my priorities, to spend time with Him, to be faithful to the ministry here, or to preaching, or to music, to do my homework, just simple things. And He started to realign my priorities, and through that, like, He's been bringing me into a greater just glory, and He's brought me to a place where, just like Andrew, when you suffer for me, it's going to bring you into a greater glory than you could ever have experienced before. And so, just to that verse from Romans 8, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. And just saying, okay, you guys are experiencing these sufferings now, but I'm going to bring you into something greater because of it. And that's what the Lord likes to do, is He likes to shape us and train us. And that's what I've been talking about recently, just about how we're supposed to love God more than anything else, that He's calling out to us. And when we act like shrews, we need to, He needs to discipline us. But I want to talk about that God is just good, and He's able to make everything right. If we just focus on Him, if we just lean on Him, He's able to bring us out of whatever we're going through. Matthew chapter 14, verse 22. Yeah.
Matthew 14, 22.
Yes. I'm going to give this account where Jesus is in the middle of a storm, and He seems to be above the circumstances. You guys know the story where He's walking on water. And He calls out to Peter, because Peter says, Lord, I want to be out there with you on the water. I want to walk with you. I want to follow you. And so Jesus says, come. And what you see what happens is a lot of what happens in our lives. I actually want to read. We're going to look at what happens and just look at the details of Peter and how he fails and also how he succeeds. But we're going to start at verse 22. It says, immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of Him to the other side while He dismissed the crowd. After He had dismissed them, He went up on a mountainside by Himself to pray. When evening came, He was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. So they're just in the boat, and Jesus is walking on the water, just out of nowhere. And in that moment, He's demonstrating how He has authority over creation. In verse 26, when the disciples saw Him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It is a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid. And this is where we want to look at. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. And when they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. And we're going to end right there. So just a simple lesson about Jesus and Peter. Jesus is obviously walking on the water, doing something that nobody has ever seen anybody do before, demonstrating his authority over creation and just shining as the pinnacle, also as the Son of God, but also as the perfect man, able to really be completely free from circumstances that surround him, or for being caught off track by him. And Peter looks at him and he says, Lord, Peter is the one who has faith in the midst. He says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. Peter is the one who says, Lord, I want to walk on water. A lot of us in our lives, we know that Jesus has done great and powerful things, that Jesus says, you will do even greater things than I've done. And he calls us to follow him and walk with him on the water, to live our lives by having faith in him, not in what is seen, but in what is unseen. And he wants us to be able to walk in that, where no matter what's going on around us, we aren't distracted, we aren't thrown off. And so, if we're able to do that, we're able to walk. He's able to use us because our eyes are fixed on him. And that's the kind of lives that Jesus calls us to live. And so we're going to look at Peter. What happens when I do decide I do want to follow Jesus and walk in the greater things that he has for me, that I'm not going to be thrown down by circumstances around me. And Jesus said, he said, come. Like he says, come on, if you want to walk on the water, come to me. And so it says, then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came to Jesus. A lot of times we get on Peter for doing the wrong things, but Peter actually walked on the water. He did take a step of faith. Regardless of what happens next, he did start to walk. And so we in our own lives, if we can at least do that, we're doing more than what the other disciples are doing. We're not afraid to try. And so, props to Peter and props to us if we decide, look, Jesus, I don't know what's going on. I know that I'm not strong enough, but I'm going to walk on the water. I'm going to come to you. And Jesus says, come. And he's calling out to us. But will we trust him? But we're going to look at what happens to Peter in verse 30. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. So Peter was doing the right thing. He was walking by faith. And this is just demonstrative of our own lives. We're going to start to walk in faith. But I'm going to tell you what the enemy tries to do, and what circumstances do. And the enemy, through circumstances, that things will start to go crazy around you to try to throw you off course. If you're sitting there not doing anything, obviously everything's going to seem fine. But the moment you start to walk with Jesus, the moment you start to follow him, a lot of times things tend to just start going downhill. And we have to recognize that the enemy doesn't want us to follow Jesus, because when we start to walk on the water and come to Jesus in that kind of faith, the whole world is going to change. Is because there's nothing that we're not going to do for him. We will say yes to everything that Jesus says if we're able to start walking like that. And so just know in your own lives, be encouraged to walk on the water. Be encouraged to follow Jesus. Because even if things start going down around you, things just disasters that seem to happen in your family or in your work or in your circumstances or just anywhere, people start to hate you, ridicule you. Jesus said that's going to happen. Know that the enemy is just trying to throw you off. And the moment you get distracted and look away, it's when you start to sink. Peter started to sink when he noticed the wind that was around him. The wind was there the whole time. Or the wind was there, but it was going to be there whether he kept his eyes on Jesus or he didn't. And the wind came up and just tried to distract him and tried to make him fall. And the moment he took his eyes off Jesus, he got afraid. When we look at our circumstances instead of the Lord, we start to sink. We start to not be able to do what we're meant to do. We start living lives not of victory. And that's a lot of what happened in my own life. Things started going down around me, and I thought I was victim to them. I thought, Lord, the enemy is attacking me and there's nothing I can do about it. That is the worst thing that you could ever think. Because the one thing that you can do is to look at Jesus and to keep fighting. Like, don't let your circumstances bring you down. Don't let the enemy ruin your life by making you keep your eyes off Jesus. And so, just expect that to happen. When you start to walk with the Lord, there's going to be a lot more distractions than ever were there before. In my own life now, even as I'm coming out of this, just this time of discipline and trying to be reworked into really focusing on the Lord again. Every time I start to try to do my homework or get ready to preach or talk to somebody or share something encouraging or anything good in the whole world, anything at all, crazy distractions start coming up. People are getting angry at me and I don't know why. None of you guys at all. If you guys get angry at me, then I need people just accusing me of not caring about them, and what does this have to do with anything right now? And my mind will start to worry about different things. Oh, am I going to offend my roommate because my shoe is touching the corner of his side of the room? Just ridiculous things. And the enemy tries to throw us off guard. But expect that and resist that. Keep your eyes on Jesus, and He will reward us. So, like I said, expect those distractions to come. But if you don't want to fall, keep your eyes on Jesus. Those things can't hurt you. They can, but they're not going to keep you from the Lord. They're not going to completely rip you away. It's when you turn your eyes away that you start to fall. But if you do fall, you can still have hope because the Lord will still be there and He will never let you go. Because when you look at verse 31, after Peter began to sink, he lost his sight of Jesus and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to drown. And he says, Lord, save me. As if the Lord wasn't there and wasn't watching over him already. In verse 31 it says, immediately Jesus reached out His hand and caught him. You of little faith, He said, why did you doubt? So Jesus was there the whole time. In our own lives, Jesus is saying, whether you look at me or not, I am still here, and I'm still beckoning to you. So if you start to follow me and you start to get scared and frustrated or things start to distract you, it's still okay because I'm still here. Obviously, He does want us to look at Him. He does want us to keep our eyes fixed on Him because we can keep walking. But even if we start to sink, He's going to catch us. In fact, through that time of falling and learning to look at Him, we learn to keep going. We learn we get stronger. We don't keep doing it over and over again. And I want to share something else. Or I'll say this first. And notice what Jesus asks. I believe the question He asks is not because He didn't know why Peter doubted. He says, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Obviously, Jesus probably knows why Peter doubts. But as I was studying this the other week, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I think Jesus might have had another reason for asking it. It could be a rhetorical question. Why did you doubt? I think He wanted Peter to think about, okay, why did I doubt? What is keeping me from following Jesus? And so in our own lives, think, okay, why did I doubt? Why did I get so caught off guard? It's because of the circumstances, and He wants us to learn. If we just look at Him, we'll be able to walk in faith. Verse 32, and when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped Him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. I want you guys to notice something in verse 32. Whenever Jesus got back in the boat and Peter's magnificent opportunity for faith was over, the wind died down. The wind never really had any control at all. The wind was just there when Peter was trying to do something for the Lord. And then in our own lives, Jesus has authority over the wind in your lives. And sometimes He will allow the wind to come up just to see if we're going to focus on Him. Not to try to throw us off, not to try to ruin us. And not because He's not in control of it, but because He wants us to focus on Him. So know that the wind is just a lie. What the enemy is trying to do to you is a lie. They cannot truly hurt you. They cannot truly take you away from Him. Because the moment the moment that it's over, the wind's going to be gone. Jesus is able to calm the storm. The wind died down. And the funny thing is, it's only in those times when we start to walk by faith is when the wind seems to come up. So keep going, because the wind isn't going to remain forever. In fact, it says, the scriptures say, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Know that if there's stuff going on around you trying to distract you from the Lord, and we get discouraged oftentimes, and these things come in many different ways. Like I said before, little things in our minds, even just things during worship to distract us from focusing on Him. And in the broader picture of our lives, what is turning me away from the Lord? Or what is even scaring me? There's things that can scare us. Keep your eyes on Jesus, and you'll get stronger against those things. I mean, you look at the guys in the Bible who, they were in danger of being killed. They had threats coming against them. They were persecuted in big ways. They were able to keep their eyes on Jesus really well. Despite what was coming against them, they kept preaching the gospel. So, just going back to my own life, I'm still experiencing that, trying to walk with the Lord, trying to walk by faith, trying to obey Him in the little things day by day. And stuff is trying to come against me and discourage me, and I get distracted, I get disrupted, I get really anxious about, am I offending other people, and am I hurting someone else, which are good things to think about. But God wants us to live by faith and not anxiety. Know that things are going to get better for us. The Lord is trying to bring us into a place of freedom, trying to bring us into our promised land. And if we're not ready, when we get there, it's not going to be good. So it was just a little tidbit I wanted to share about what it means to really walk by faith, to look at the Lord and not get distracted. In our own lives, as all of us as a church start to walk with the Lord and step into the deeper things of Him, He's going to keep beckoning us. He's going to call us, and He's going to show us things that we may have never seen before, never knew He could do. And we're going to want to get distracted. We're going to look away. Maybe doubts will come up in our minds. But we can't let that get to us, because the enemy just wants to make us start sinking, to look at the waves. And even things will start to come against us in actual, real, manifest ways, as in things starting to, with our money, with our friends, things that people say about us, anything. Don't get distracted, because it's worth it. Following Jesus is worth it, because there's a glory waiting for us more than we could ever imagine. So, thank you guys. I extended my